All right, so we're going to start getting into nationalism versus sectionalism real quick. Nationalism is a strong identification with one's nation. So, nationalism would be that we're not from 50 states. We're maybe we're from Ohio, but what are we? We're all Americans. That is a feeling of nationalism, a feeling of identifying closely with your country or nation. Okay, so Kentucky Senator Henry Clay comes up with this American system. Okay, it is to protect America from the European system of European goods being imported. It's going to tax them, going to put tariffs on them, okay? Going to establish a national bank, okay? We want one single currency. That is going to be the dollar, okay? Another thing in the American system is to work on the infrastructure. Infrastructure is transportation, roads, canals. We're not really to the large expansion of railroads yet. We're at the start of railroads, okay? So this system is focused at making America stronger. We just had a draw, essentially, with the British in the War of 1812, gained some control over key parts of the five Great Lakes. So now we can ship. Shipping is huge, obviously. For regional and national growth, you need to be able to ship. And if you want to ship, you're going to need ways to move things over the water. And then, they're going to come up with a canal system. Okay? So now we have to have a better road system and a canal system. A canal system is a man-made trench, essentially, like a creek or a crick, some of you think, but it has no current. Okay? They connect New York City with Buffalo, New York, with the Erie Canal. If you can get things from New York City to Buffalo, you can get things to the Great Lakes. So that opens up huge shipping. So that is going to be, we're going to concentrate on making America an industrial power. That's what we're going to start talking. It's going to be focused more on nationalism, the United States of America. Within nationalism, you're going to see sectionalism, where the country is going to start to divide itself in North and South. Okay. So the era of good feelings is going to refer to the presidency of James Monroe, and he is the president after James Madison. He's the president after James Madison. Okay, James Madison was in the White House. Well, Dolly was in the White House when the British showed up and burned it to the ground in the War of 1812. So Monroe is going to follow Madison. Okay, Monroe is going to balance his cabinet. He is going to try and set regional differences aside, north, south. Okay, and then as they're expanding westward, boom towns. So he's going to try and get as many different people as he can in his cabinet. He's going to have Southerners. He's going to have Northerners. John Calhoun, Henry Clay. Okay, and his cabinet, John Quincy Adams. Okay, John Quincy Adams he ends up winning the next. He actually defeats Andrew Jackson in the only other election in United States history where the United States House of Representatives, he defeats Andrew Jackson. And we'll talk more about Andrew Jackson coming up here. We're going to talk a bunch of different things with Jackson and Indian Removal Act. But that's who he's going to have in his cabinet. He's going to try and diversify and have not all Northerners, not all Southerners, not all people who are expanding west, okay? So, James Monroe, president, era of good feelings, okay? Now, John Marshall is going to be Supreme Court. He's going to be Supreme Court Justice, okay? And they're going to come up with some landmark decisions that affect interstate trade and how like right now we're having issues with who is controlling the coronavirus and who's controlling whether people have orders are they essential workers? They're not essential workers. They're doing that state by state. John Marshall made some decisions, some key decisions, and some state issues that gave states, actually took rights from states. If you look at Gibbons versus Ogden in 1824, New York and New Jersey were fighting over who had the shipping rights to the Hudson River, and they ruled that neither New York nor New Jersey had no control over that. That the federal government would regulate interstate trade between states. Okay, so these are some things that John Marshall did, and McCollum was from Maryland before that. Okay. Maryland wants to tax a national bank. Um, States cannot tax national government. Okay. Roads and canals. Okay, so Erie Canal. All right, this is what's going to connect Buffalo to New York City. Okay. So New York City obviously has access to the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, so when you open that up and you connect the Atlantic Ocean with a quicker route, okay, and you create this canal. First off, canals once again they're dug by they're man-made. Okay, they have no current. So what is going to get the cargo up and down it, the barge up and down it, the boat up and down it? Well, you can see the towpath here. This is the towpath I'm showing you on the. Okay, you have large draft animals pulling horses here, horses, donkeys, oxen, whatever you need, usually horses, and that's what's going to transport the goods. Okay, the Erie Canal is going to connect the East Coast, okay, New York City with Buffalo, which is on the Great Lakes, the 5 Great Lakes. Okay, Erie Canal. Obviously, it's going to open up trade between New York City. Okay, the population of New York City now, transportation is just much easier. Okay, um, they don't want federal money to pay for this. Okay, but the Erie Canal is going to put a real big surge for canal system, and it's going to increase interstate trade between states. It's going to help America grow. It's what's going to make America economically viable. Obviously, coming along with that will be better roads. Okay, sectionalism. Okay, so this is where we're moving towards the end of the class. The United States of America is going to break into 2 sections. Okay, sectionalism would be like, I don't know if you ever meet anybody from New Jersey. People from New Jersey, they're very proud of being from New Jersey. People from New York, very proud of being from New York. Okay, they identify with the section of the country they're from. Okay, Ohioans. Okay, Ohioans like being Ohioans. I don't know if we identify as strongly as New Yorkers and people from New Jersey. I mean, they're really, if you're from Jersey, they identify with it. That's an example of sectionalism. They're not saying, I'm an American. Maybe they say that after all at the end, right? But they identify with where they're from. Okay, they're really, really identifying with the section of the country from the East Coast. If you ever go there, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's a really interesting, part of the country if you ever get a chance to go there. But that would be an example of sectionalism. So we're going to start to break into 2 pieces. We're going to start to break into the North and the South. The North is going to be heavily industrialized with lots of factories. The South is going to be largely agricultural. Who's doing most of the work in the South on these large plantations? Slaves that are brought from Africa or people whose ancestors were brought from Africa. Okay, so we're going to have a big problem here. Okay, we're going to try and there's this delicate balancing act in America for 50 years, right? That delicate balancing act is once you add a free state, a northern state, you have to add a southern state, which is a slave state. Well, if you give slave states in the South more states or more power than the North, the shift of power and the ebb and the flow is just so back and forth, and the pendulum swings back and forth. So we have a huge problem. Missouri, which technically, if you saw it geographically speaking, you'd say, well, that's a northern state, Mr. Miller. Well, we have a thing called the Missouri Compromise. And if you look at the map here on the Missouri Compromise, okay, you look at Missouri. Missouri, the most northern part of Missouri, is as high as Columbus, Ohio. Okay? It's parallel to Columbus, Ohio. So just think about that. In 1820, there's a huge deal that goes on. If you look, here's Ohio. Obviously, here's Missouri. Okay, and if you see everything in red here, these are going to be slave states. They're going to allow slavery. Everything in green, the state you're from, does not allow slavery. Okay? So there's a ban on slavery in, obviously, the entire East Coast I was just talking about. New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan Territory, Indiana, Illinois. Well, when Missouri comes in, right, they need to keep that balance. Missouri, if you look at it geographically speaking, they have to make this compromise. Well, the state's on the border technically, right? It could be on the border. You could construe it as a free or a slave, but to allow Missouri into the Union, you got to keep that delicate balance. I'm talking about 11 and 11, free states versus slave states. They are going to bring in Missouri as a slave state, and they are going to ban slavery in the Louisiana Territory. Now, if you look at the Louisiana Territory, that is this unorganized territory. Okay, that's the Louisiana Purchase that we talked about that, right? Lewis and Clark. And that is going to, they're going to let those territories as they're added, they're going to let them decide whether they want to have slavery or not. Okay? If you look at Missouri, like I said, it lays above what is going to be later the Missouri compromise line. Okay? So some interesting things are going to happen. This is going to start, like I said, the wedge that is going to start to drive America apart from a nationalistic people identifying as Americans to people identifying as Northerners and Southerners. Okay? All right, so setting the boundaries. These are the boundaries they're going to set. An important boundary here in 1818, they're going to set the 49th parallel as the U.S.-Canadian border, which is still basically what it is today. Rush-Bagot Agreement is going to limit the amount of navies that Britain can have in the United States and the U.S. can have in the Great Lakes as to avoid more conflict on the 5 Great Lakes. Okay? And then Adams-Onis Treaty, this is going to play directly into eventually here in the 1820s and 1830s, when Andrew Jackson becomes president, there's going to be an Indian Removal Act. And this, what we're talking about, there's going to be very tense boundary disputes in Florida, Georgia, with Seminole Indians. You can have some Cherokee. And as Spain leaves Spanish Florida, you're going to start to have some real problems. Now, America has the Monroe Doctrine in 1823. What the Monroe Doctrine is a way for the United States of America to eliminate influence of colonization of European powers. Okay? What happens is you have Portugal and Spain they're being thrown off as colonial rulers, okay, in Mexico and in, like Brazil, current day Brazil. Okay, they're being thrown off. All right? I told you this, right? What's one of the big things that conquerors leave behind? They leave behind their language. Well, what language do they speak in Mexico? They speak Spanish. Well, that's who ruled them. What language do they speak in Brazil? Well, they speak Portuguese because that's who ruled them. They leave religion behind. There's all different types of things, but language is a big part of what you leave behind when we're talking about this. Alaska. Alaska was largely Russian. Another large land purchase we will eventually make. Okay? We don't want European powers in North America. So in 1823, the Monroe Doctrine is issued. Okay? This is basically like the Western Hemisphere is closed to European influence. That is what the Monroe Doctrine is about. We use it all the way up until like the 1960s. It's wild, right? So, invoking the Monroe Doctrine, okay? We do all different types of things. We try and keep Great Britain out. We're trying to keep Russia out. We are trying to keep all of European colonial nations, right? We don't want them over here. We want to rule the Western Hemisphere without European influence. Monroe Doctrine, we've sent troops to Nicaragua, Haiti, Guatemala, Cuba, as you can see, they're Dominican Republic, Grenada, and Panama to prevent the spread. We have this thing called, it's later on, it's not this course, but we have a containment policy of communism, and it's largely to keep the Soviet Union out of the Western Hemisphere, and we invoke something from 1823. over 100 years later. So kind of a wild thing. We'll get more into sectionalism and America, dividing into North and South. We'll get into the issue of slavery, obviously, more. Missouri Compromise, we're not done with that. We'll come back to the Missouri Compromise and talk about bringing Missouri in as a slave state to keep the balance between free and slave states, and that big difference between nationalism and sectionalism. Nationalism, I identify as an American. Sectionalism, I identify as an Ohioan, right? And we have a pretty strong sectionalism, I would say, in Northeast Ohio. Um, you know, everything in Northeast Ohio is earned, never given, right? I think everybody's favorite Laker, LeBron James. He said that a lot. So that's a part of identifying what the section you're from, right? So yeah, that's a big part. We identify pretty strongly as Northeast Ohioans. Okay, so nationalism versus sectionalism, and then the transportation improvement quiz coming up. Check it out. I'll post it probably sometime tomorrow. Take your time getting to it, and I'll see some of you on the live class things that we're going to be doing the rest of the week here. Regular schedule. See you folks there. Thanks for the time. Hit me with an email if you need anything. All right. Thank you.